Hey, paisans, the time has come. On the air since 2009, the independently produced, non-FCC compliant champ of video game talk podcasting. Here comes Tiger Claw Radio. Here's your host, Critical Failure.
Yes, friends, it's that time again. It's time for Tiger Claw Radio. Oh, yeah. This week, we're going to listen to some chiptunes. We're going to talk about specifically Final Fantasy. Hemrock checks in with the next entry on his top 8 Final Fantasy games. And, we got some surprises all lined up. It's going to be a good time. All right, so let's start off with our next track in the top 40 all-time 8-Bit Collective. We are at number 17. This is Lecker from Udo. Number 17. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Indeed, that is Lecker from the 8-Bit Collective, top 40 tracks of all time, out of 8,000 plus tracks put together by Hemrock. And speaking of Hemrock, he checks in again with his Final Fantasy list, and we're actually going to lead with that this episode because I want to talk about it after we've gone through it. So let's shoot it over to Hemrock.
All right, folks, let's keep moving on. We are at number 7 out of 8 of the top 8. So this is second to last. It's where it gets interesting. where it gets a little controversial, but I'm putting Final Fantasy IV at number 7 out of 8. I beat the PSP version, and I suspect that this ranking may anger some people, as there are people out there that view Final Fantasy IV as one of the best in the early series, and perhaps the best of the entire Final Fantasy series. But it just doesn't quite rank, in my mind, as high as many of these others. Nevertheless, it's foundational, similar to Final Fantasy II. It's foundational because it's one of the first games that had many features that we take for granted. Those features include battle backgrounds that reflected where you were on the world map or dungeon, option menu to adjust battle speed, message speed, and window color. The hours and minutes were stamped on your save file. It even had save points in dungeons. The active time battle system was introduced, and now it's not simply doing the right thing in battle, but doing the right thing at the right time. Characters with a higher agility will take fewer turns. Also, spells take different amounts of time to cast. Generally speaking, weaker spells are cast faster than stronger spells. Although this system opened a new dimension to strategy, it was not fully realized, as there's no visible time gauge that the player could see. This seems like such an obvious oversight to me. Another dimension that was emphasized and perhaps introduced to some degree was character arcs, especially Cecil. Although some may claim Cecil's arc ends near the middle of the game. Another introduction is opening cutscenes. This was the first Final Fantasy to have an opening cutscene. It also arguably has more dramatized cutscenes. I sum up Final Fantasy IV like this. In Final Fantasy math, Final Fantasy II plus Final Fantasy III equals Final Fantasy IV. Similar to Final Fantasy II, this is an on-rails Final Fantasy game, and by that I mean your customization is partially sacrificed in order to provide a guided narrative. Characters jump in and out of your party on their own whim, or at least the whim of the storytellers. Instead of the free-flowing job system of Final Fantasy III, Final Fantasy IV assigns those jobs to the characters, and the player is stuck with what they are given. Some players like this, I don't. I want to be able to customize my characters and deeply strategize how I will see progress with their stats. Unfortunately, one of the most striking characters does not even show up till the end of the game when you have the least amount of time to appreciate him. Now, although this is a story-driven game, there's some silly plot devices, such as multiple fake deaths or near deaths of party characters. At least one character has 2 fake deaths. There's mind control. Even one of the villains was mind controlled. There's a fake ending. Just when you think the game is coming to an end, suddenly find out there's another world to explore or crystal to find, etc. This latter feature has become a Final Fantasy cliche. One reviewer sums it up really well when he compares Final Fantasy IV to a D&D campaign gone off the rails, and the dungeon master is desperately trying to make it look like this was his plan the whole time. Final Fantasy IV is a good game, and it has a lot going for it, but in my mind, it does not exceed the fun factor of the games that I will talk about later. Pro tip: don't grind much in this game. Just go through the game and try to enjoy it for its story. It's actually one of the shorter Final Fantasies. Now, before I let you go, I do want to mention that there's a big gap between number 7, this game Final Fantasy IV, and the next spot, number 6. So I look forward to sharing number 6 with you in hopefully the near future.
Big thanks to Hemrock for putting that together. I love it that he's a part of the show. I think that's really cool because I looked up to the Retro League like quite a bit when we'll say the Hemrock era. So I think it's awesome that he's running a regular, quasi regular segment here on TCR. Also, that means I can stop playing Final Fantasy II because I was not taken with that game. So now I'm going to try with Final Fantasy IV. And give that one a try, because it's another one of the Final Fantasy games I have never played. And not only have I never played it, it turns out I've had it on Steam for at least a year or so. Particularly the 3D remake, because that's something they now clarify on Steam where they didn't used to. I bought the 3D remake, which I think was a DS game, I guess. Let me see how much they charged for the straight. Final Fantasy 4. Oh wow, the remake is cheaper. $16 for the 3D version and $18 for the straight up artwork or sprite work version of the game. You know what's weird is I've never played this, but in my big CD folio from when CDs were like the thing, I've had like the Tokyo Pop selection soundtrack for Final Fantasy IV for quite a long time. So I'm kind of looking forward to this. Am I going to play it all the way through? No, I won't. Because I've got a lot of other stuff I'm doing. But I'm definitely going to sit down with it and give it a couple of sessions and see what I think. Yeah. So, also, this might change because I haven't played this yet, but at this point, I am 100% in agreement with Hemrock's list. So let me know what you guys think if you have differing opinions. So, over this past week, Magic the Gathering Arena has been released on Steam. Now, this has been out for several years now, and it's a free-to-play game, but they now have it on Steam if you are like me and you compulsively want to track your stats and your time spent playing games and stuff, which is kind of cool. I mean, me, as much as I feel like I'm peaking. Am I peaking? I think maybe it's okay. Is that any better or worse? Okay, so the amount that I'm into playing games on Steam, I realize that is a shortcoming. But I still like it when things get released, especially if they're free. More options means, better for the consumer. I think the dumbest thing to ever be released on Steam for free is the OBS, the Open Broadcast Studio. Like, why are you using that in Steam? But I still think it's a good thing because people who didn't know about it will now see it there available to use. And that's cool. So I gave Magic the Gathering Arena a try probably like a year ago or so. And I thought, hey, this is cool. And I put it aside after like quite literally one session maybe. So I gotta say I might give it a try again. To turn back the clock a little bit, I got into Magic the Gathering Online, which is their older version. I bought into that because you had to pay $10 for an account. I bought into that like a week before MTG Arena came out. So I was a little salty, but not really that much. And I think I might actually be ready to make the jump and play some good old MTG again. And I think Tiger Fest was in large part responsible for that, because when Sendu and Hemrock and I got together, Hemrock and I played Magic the Gathering late into the night a couple times. Not like into the 1 o'clock, like wee hours of the morning, but when Sendu went to bed, Hemrock and I played Horde mode, in MTG, and we played his random deck mode at least a couple hours later. And I gotta say that left the MTG spark, and I haven't been quite sure how to fill it since then. So this is a really cool thing. They had, once again, nothing really new here, but it's on Steam now. So there you go. All right, boys and girls, let's do another chiptune. I thought it might be fun to turn back the clock a little bit. This is a track that we played on TCR many, many times, but it's been, I don't know, at least a year, maybe a couple of years now. This is Jar with Wiener Hype. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. I think that track would be like on the Mount Rushmore of tracks played on Tiger Claw Radio, if such a thing existed. So we're about at the 20-minute mark. This is the part of the show where I like to thank the sponsors, a tip of the hat. It's a Patreon-sponsored program. Patreon-sponsored program. There you go. So I don't give enough to the Patreon sponsors, to be perfectly honest. I used to do it where the show was like a day or two earlier for them, but I can't maintain that. So what I can do is our old tradition here of reading their names off in a hall of distinguished gentlemen. They are Darabka, EmeraldRangers.com, Tecmo Balls, and Hemrock. Thank you guys so much. I hope you're enjoying the party, and thanks for sticking around as long as you have. I really appreciate it. So over this past couple of weeks, I've been having a lot of fun with YouTube and just doing simple stuff. I have my little alcove set up with games. It's a little CRT on a banquet table. It sits on the right side of my office, and I have some like old consoles hooked up to this little CRT. Now, I'm not doing the thing where I'm getting a switcher and I'm trying to hook up 10 consoles at once. No, I cannot do that. It doesn't work for me, because what happens is I get all the consoles hooked up and nothing gets played. And when it does get played, I'll say, okay, this particular console, okay, I have the Sega Master System that I got from Sendu. This is what I want to play. Then I have to go through my switch boxes and figure out which input it is. And, sometimes I've had to draw a diagram and hang it up as to how to get, it doesn't work. I'm far better off just having a system out and keeping it hooked up for a few months and then switching out when I'm ready to switch. And I've been making videos on this knockoff NES, which has been, a lot of fun. It's a good product. It has problems, but this is a system that I've been playing. This has got honest to goodness gameplay from me, and it's $25. So, so I don't know. I want to say I highly recommend it, but you got to be aware of what you're getting. But here's the thing. I have a stack of Famicom games, right? Not Nintendo, but like older Japanese Famicom games that have been imported. And I've had these for a long time, and I wanted to play them on this clone console. So I bought from AliExpress. I bought an adapter, 70 pin or 60 pin to 72 pin adapter. It's with the Famicom to NES. And I tried it and it didn't work. I did it on camera. I just published that video today, but I filmed it a couple days ago. And so I did some research, and Hyperkin actually makes an adapter like that. And I decided, well, I've tried this twice before, and both times they're from cheap AliExpress users. And on the Hyperkin one, there's reviews of people actually having success with it. So I took the plunge, and it was cheaper now than it used to be. I bought the Hyperkin one for like $17, and it works. I just tried it last night, and my goodness, I love it. It works on the clone system. The actual NES, I put this thing in, and it will boot the game, but it does that thing where it blinks, and no matter how I clean it, no matter how I position it, it won't stop blinking. And I think Guru Larry pointed out that was a lockout chip in the original NES. I think that's on purpose. But that doesn't matter, because now all my Famicom games are working on this clone console that I can use like real controllers on, right? I've had a Famiclone forever that I got from Hemrock that has... You can't use real controllers on it. It has like 9-pin controller jacks like a Sega Genesis has, but Sega Genesis controllers don't actually work on it, so you have to use these flimsy controllers that come with it. And then on top of that, the compatibility is really, really bad. So this was a huge deal for me last night. And I didn't get to play it much because I figured it out like right at bedtime that this thing worked. But I have Cycross all queued up to play today. Cycross was a game that Hemrock, I hope you don't mind me blowing your top, but blowing your cover a little bit, but it was one of the review videos that Hemrock actually made years and years and years ago. It was a great video, but he had to take it down for whatever reason. Sometimes videos just have to come down. And it was a good video, and he was like, at the time, I want to be the world champ at Cycross. That was like one of the things he was talking about. So I got the Japanese version, which is almost the same. If I remember right, correct me, Hemrock, if I'm wrong. I think the Japanese version, the score economy is a little different. So if you dig out your NES Cycross, I don't think we can high score challenge those two games. I'd have to actually get an NES one. But I'm giddy that I can play my Famicom games. I can't wait. When I'm done doing TCR today, I'm gonna go film the Hyperkin adapter. So I can't sing the praises of that enough. It was worth the money. I'm really digging that. Yeah. So that's my little alcove. And Famicom games are fun. Hooray for Hollywood. Let me see what else I have on my list. I've got 3 things on my list. One is MTG Arena now on Steam, which we talked about. Okay, we'll do this one first. YouTube is now supporting podcasts, which I wanted to make a little info video about, but I just never got around to it. This happened this past week. So I started a new podcast listing for Tiger Claw Radio, and that is now what appears on my channel. It works just the same way as a regular playlist does, but they classify it as a podcast, which I assume puts us in like a podcast listening, or maybe makes us appear in like certain directories, for people to discover podcasts, whatever. If it's great, if it's something that's for podcasts, I want in on it. But I noticed that YouTube is still not supporting uploading straight MP3s. You have to have a video file still, which sucks, because that has been maintaining a podcast on YouTube. That's probably been the biggest stumbling block. Is I have to take the podcast, put it into a video editor, and have it, encode an however long, video file of the podcast. Even though it just has a single screen that's static, it adds an extra step. And I only recently switched to the free one. What is it? OpenShot Video Editor. I only recently switched to that. I gotta say, OpenShot Video Editor is a million times better than it used to be, man. I tried this out like 5 years ago, and it just wouldn't do anything for me. Nothing on the progress bar would like snap to where it was supposed to be, so it was really hard to get everything right. And simple things took a lot more clicks than they should. It just wasn't worth it. So I ended up buying one off of Steam. But I went back to it, and it's a lot better than it used to be now. So. Good job to those guys. So that's it. YouTube supporting podcasts. So we'll see how that changes things. But most of all, I know that several people who listen to this do podcasts of their own, and I still, after all these years, I try and maintain as friendly, a disposition as possible. When it comes to podcasting, at least at this level, it helps to give. The more you give, the better off you are, right? So, anything I can do to help out my fellow podcasters, check that out. See if that's a viable tool. So there you go. Moving on. I watched a video. Wow. Oof. That was quite a slip there. Let me try that again. I watched a movie, an actual Hollywood movie, which I never do. I watched Cocaine Bear, and I loved it. Oh my gosh. I was expecting it to be not good, but I really like it. It was a fun movie. It was a fun slasher movie where the bad guy is just a bear, and that's it. And it has Ray Liotta in it. The thing is, it's a movie that takes place in the 80s, and it's very 80s, man. There's 2 kids in the movie, and one of them is wearing like an Intercontinental Championship belt from WWF, just like because they bought one with their allowance. I don't know. I mean, if you remove the slasher element of it, I think it was a great movie about the 80s, I think. So, man, I loved that movie. I saw that on Peacock, which I still have my subscription for. Yeah, it was a good time. I don't know. I'm not much of a movie reviewer, so I couldn't like tell you much about it, but it was very like light and funny. And then when it got dark, like it felt appropriate. Like I think it's difficult to balance those two things. Usually when I see horror movies try and be funny, it just ends up being a mess. But this one, I don't know. Maybe it was because the whole concept is ridiculous that I was more open to the idea. But yeah, they pulled it off. So that's Cocaine Bear. Highly recommend it. And that's my 3 things. Now, where does that put me? I want to make sure I've covered everything before I, sort of abandon ship and move on. All right, I'm going to talk real quick about tabletop games, and I'm going to try and keep it brief because I know this is I try and keep this oriented towards video games. But I put out an order for the Dungeons and Dragons basic set manual. It's the little red book, came in a little red box, and I had it when I was, oh man, how old was I? I was in junior high. Probably 6th grade. So that'd have been 1996. I'd have been 11. Wow, I was young. I had it when I was 11. I had the little box that it came with and everything, and I also had the expert rules, but I didn't have the box. I had the little book for that one. And these are things that I bought. Okay, so here's the picture I got to paint. Never mind Dungeons and Dragons for a minute. This was 1996. All right, there was internet back then, but it wasn't quite the world where anything you wanted under the sun, you could go to Amazon and just order it, right? So, like right now, think for a second. What is your favorite fandom / geekery? Maybe it's an anime. Maybe it's maybe you're a Trekkie. Maybe you're like Sean and you like the superheroes, right? You can get on your niche websites and order all sorts of custom things to fit that. That way, it wasn't really like that yet in those days. So instead, in my town, we had a place called Barbarian Books, and it was a comic shop that we saw from when I was a wee little lad go from a small row store to a big row store, and it became like a really big outlet store for all sorts of geekery. Thousands of comic books and trading cards. This was like Magic the Gathering was, still fairly new to the game. You could get a Black Lotus for like $600 in those days, compared to what they are now. So what I remember the most about the Barbarian was in the back of the Barbarian was a little section for tabletop role-playing games, and they were mashed together on a shelf. So it was clearly not like a role-playing place, but they had some. We got our introduction to Steve Jackson's Car Wars from this place. My older brother had bought some and passed it around the family, and it became a thing. Well, they had some of the old, first edition Dungeons and Dragons printings for very cheaply. I think I bought this thing for like $5, and I bought the expert rules for like $3, and I bought a copy of. If you're a Dungeons and Dragons head, you'll know what this is. It's called The Keep on the Borderlands. It was like the first real big module for Dungeons and Dragons. I bought that for like $1.50. So I had those 3 products that I would carry around with my friends. Oh, and by the way, not that this really matters, but just to paint a picture, my friends were all, I want to say thugs, but they weren't thugs. It's just like, it was a real strong black culture, right? Amongst my friends, which I loved because my mother grew up in Madison, New Jersey. So she was kind of like, I want to say racist, but it wasn't quite like she didn't hate black people, but she was afraid of them. So in my rebellious spirit, I made friends with the blackest of the black, and I would roll up home and I would introduce all these kids to my mom. And it was really a wonderful thing because she came to love all the kids, and it was a great time. But it was me and me and the boys would, mess with the Dungeons and Dragons kit. And I say mess with it because I don't think we ever really had an organized game. I just remember making characters and doing little sketches and stuff. Because here again, that big pile of stuff was a combined total of less than $10, so it didn't really matter. But those same products now are $60 a piece, So every once in a while I look up something like that from my youth and it kind of hurts. But I ordered that red book, not the box that it came in, but just the book. And the one that I ordered, it's $20 or so, $21 total. and I'm thrilled. The condition hasn't shown up yet, but based on the listing, the condition for this book is terrible. There's pages like are falling out and stuff, but they're all there, and I love it. I love that. When this thing shows up, I'm gonna get out a big roll of like packing tape, and I'm gonna tape all the pages in, right? And I cannot wait. So I'm in this sort of buzz about the old Dungeons and Dragons kit. I can't wait for it to show up. And by the way, if you've never seen this thing, it only goes up to level 5. The red box. It was more akin to like a starter kit, but in those days, the mentality was that just that little slice was enough to do like an infinite amount of games with. So different mentality, and I think that's all I'm gonna say about tabletop role playing games, because video game platform, but I'm kind of thrilled about that. So yeah, there we go. Are we caught up with real time now? Yeah, I think we are. Okay, so let's see. Do I have the Mecha Menace failbag sound effect? I don't think I do. Mecha, I need to get with you so I can get another copy of that, brother. I'm sorry. But anyways, it's time for the failbag. This is where, we talk. It's a small show, so you can reach out to me and I'll actually hear it and whatnot. So a lot of good conversation comes from this part of the show, which is why I devote so much space to it. First off, I want to check emeraldrangers.com. If you're listening to this on YouTube, the new episodes come out on emeraldrangers.com, and then a week later it goes to YouTube. So over on Emerald Rangers, we have Sonic Symphony World Tour announced, and that's from Cameron 1391, and we have Tiger Claw Radio 451, New Zelda Slow News Week. That was last week. No comments there, but definitely check out Emerald Rangers. Big thanks to them for all their support. Okay, over on YouTube, let's see. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube, just from the videos that I put up in the past week. But specifically for TCR, give me a second, let me zero in on that episode. David Miller, and if you don't know who that is, that's Dalamar, who hosted, provided web hosting for TCR, probably back in 2014, or maybe 2013, something like that, a long time ago. He says, I'm a little over a minute in of having one of these in the mail. And he's talking about an RG35XX. He says, having one of these in the mail about a week ago, while I'm impressed with it, especially compared to the other emulation handhelds I've got, I got to agree with the other reviewers that I've experienced in the fact that the stock firmware isn't great at all. I'm eventually going to replace it. But out of the box, it's running everything I need to run flawlessly. Hee hee. That is awesome. And I got to say, man, it's good to hear from you, Dalamar. I hope you're doing well. And by the way, I still have that Dreamcast you sold me. I say sold in big loose letters because he charged me $10 for it. And big thanks for that, even though it's been all these years. Enjoy that RG35XX, man. And we got some other stuff. One thing that was really cool was I put up a video of a Game Boy flashcard that I got from the 8-Bit Collective days, and there was a handful of people who remembered it from back then. 16-Bitter says, blast from the past. Battery draw was no joke. You're right about that. And on a backlit modded pocket, forget about it. That's right. It did draw quite a bit of electricity. But it was the premier flashcard in those days. What else we got? Somebody said on the Retron testing video that I put out yesterday, somebody said, good job, subscribed, which was awesome. And then a minute later, he wrote, don't blow it. Which I appreciate. I got a good laugh out of that. Hemrock says, wow, sorry to hear about the incompatibility. Out of curiosity, I just tried Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt and Bayou Billy on the Retron 5. Both started without issue. Sorry, I don't think I have Hide-Lied or Guerrilla War. I forgot about the horribly awesome voice intro for Bayou Billy. Good stuff, CF. Thanks, man. Yeah, there's something... Here's the thing about compatibility with this console. I don't think it's necessarily those titles. I think it's something to do with those particular copies. And the very first unboxing video, there was a guy who really knew about that console who laid it out. If you give me a second, I'm going to see if I can dig it up, but I have to go way back, so bear with me here. Bitscene says on last week's TCR, such a nice looking device. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I like the vertical shaped handheld emulation devices. I don't know. I have more comments from last week's TCR, though. Desm says, I've always been fond of Mega Man 8. It has a bright, cartoony look, and the music is kind of 90s electronica stuff. There's some rough patches, and it has the hilarious voiceovers, but I still like to play it. The Saturn version is pretty good. It has some extra content, and it's a game on the system which can produce legit transparency effects. Some people think the Saturn couldn't do it. Oh, cool. I really need to play that game more. It deserves an honest shot. I might not like it, but it deserves an honest shot. You know? And I definitely have not given that to it. Let's see what else we got. I gotta go back quite a bit. Maybe not. Hold on a second. Let me pause recording real quick. Alright, well, I'll dig it up at some point. For now, let's jump over to Discord and see what we got. Discord. Hemrock says, thanks for the IPS Zelda patch. It works on my Retron. I played it a bit and found the sword, bombs, and some rupees. I've been dying a lot. I hope save scumming is acceptable. And I responded with save scumming is just fine. Okay, so here's the thing about the Zelda. He's talking about I ran the Zelda randomizer and I put the patch and the ROM up on the files channel of the Discord so we could all play it together. Haven't made a video about it yet, so right now I think it's just me and Arvind, but the monsters are all randomized. So a lot of the centaurs, which are upper bracket monsters, they're right around the starting point when you don't have the stuff to deal with them. So one thing I've noticed is that there's a store like within 2 screens of the opening. I think it's right and up or up and right, something like that. That has the blue ring, and it also has the candle, but the heart limit for that blue ring has been removed. So if you amass the rupees, get that blue ring, and that's how I'm able to deal with it. I've been playing it without save states for the most part. Like I'm just dying and whatever. And the way I've mitigated the issue is that there's an old trick with Zelda where if you leave only one enemy, then they're not going to respawn. So I'll die a lot, but if I can kill some of them and knock it down to 1, then at least I can travel through those areas. And there's a lot of it's a secret to everybody type things in that game. So I was able to actually get the ring, at least on my V90 save. I was able to get the ring, and that made it a lot easier. So there's that. When it comes to save states, I use save states when I'm checking for secret bomb entrances, because I'm not going to keep finding all the bombs. And we know that secret entrances could be just about anywhere, and I don't want to check the map either. So that's one point where I use save states. I used to use them when looking for secret fire entrances with the candle, but then I figured out the blue candle you can use as much as you want, unlike the original game where you have to, go screen to screen and use it once. So I hope that helps, and it's cool to hear you're playing it. Have you found the first dungeon yet? Because I have not. I found several dungeons, like 2 and 7 and 4, but not the first one. So let me know if you find that, because I'm holding out looking at the documentation for it. Hemrock says, you ever find yourself watching old YouTube vids? I've been recently checking out some of Luke Morse 1's stuff. Did he ever have a channel just called Luke Morse without the number 1? I don't think so. Luke Morse 1 has been around so long. He had that stint where he got divorced and he left YouTube for a little while. It was so long ago. Laid back retro gamer Jeff was still on YouTube at that point. And he's been gone since 2011. So he's been around a long time. And I think at that point we were all using regular screen names instead of channel names for the most part. So that's, I don't know. I really don't know. But I haven't watched Luke Morse 1 in forever. Is he still around? Is he still making videos? Because it's been years. I know that Sean and I would get on Discord and be like, hey, how's it going, Luke here? just for fun. No real reason either. We did that for years and years. And I think, oh, right. And I do watch old videos, though. Let's see. Let me see if I can think of, hold on a second. There's one particular guy I want to recommend. Let me see if I can look him up. Yeah, there was a channel called 2-Bit Arcade, or 2-Bit Gaming. And his last video was 12 years ago when Halo 2600 came out. He had a really good series. That would be worth like digging up YouTube past to check out. I'll put one of those videos up on Discord, just so you don't have to bother searching for it. With that, boys and girls, we're gonna wrap it up for this week. Whatever it is you're dealing with in your life, I'm rooting for you. I really am. I hope it goes well. Keep at it. Don't give up. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you next week.